Hey, everybody. Welcome. We're going to try to make Monday nights great. I appreciate you being here. Matt from MWA Woodworks is going to be with us tonight. He's got well over 300,000 followers on Instagram. He's got well over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. He knows what he's doing in the wood shop and on social media. I hope that you'll stick around and join us for this. If you're watching this on replay, you can skip ahead about 10 minutes unless you want to watch this countdown. Otherwise, if you're with us live, thank you, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Just buying that software isn't what makes the difference. You've got to learn to use that tool, just like you've got to learn to use your high-end Powermatic woodworking tools or Festool for Sedge out there.
So I think you got to kind of leverage all of it.
And I just realized this is a new camera. I didn't take off the protective plastic over it, so I don't know if that was blurry or not for you. Oops.
Oh, hey, look at that.
In your little intro, which was very well put together, as I was sitting backstage and you had all these little clips from your previous guests, there was lots of good information in there, but somebody mentioned, just finding that thing that you love and do the thing you love. Don't make things that you don't like making.
In terms of growing a business, especially a business where you make things, is make the things you want to sell. I want to say Brad Rodriguez said this many times a while back, where it's like, if you don't want to sell cutting boards, stop making cutting boards. If you want to sell tables, make some tables and sell them at a loss if you have to, just to get some tables out there you sold. You attract clients that you can show you've actually made a thing. If you're trying to sell couches, don't keep making coasters telling people you can make couches. Make some couches.
A lot of times, usually when people start out on YouTube or when they're building a YouTube channel, they'll feel like their energies, if it's a scale of 1 to 10, they'll feel like they're at like an 8 or a 9, and they'll be like, woohoo! But then when they actually watch themselves on camera, it's actually more like a 2 or 3.
We do take sponsors, especially as a lot of the smaller channels. And there's two ways they talk about sponsorship. Sponsorship is someone paying you to do something, and the other one is getting free tools and stuff.
Launch day is my favorite day. That is my favorite day of the week. I just absolutely love launching videos and getting the feedback. So yeah, that's most videos take 4 to 5 full days to make, and I would like to streamline that. I would like to put out more videos in a week.
It's really kind of sad because I didn't get involved even when he was doing the noodle boards. He pretty much did all that. I did everything in the house so that he could stay in the shop a lot.
I am a little conflicted, I think. It initially started off with just sharing like my sewing machines and sewing tips and stuff like that. And then it kind of morphed into sharing the Mastering Mayhem merch items that I was making. And then along the way, I kind of shared some DeWalt tool and obsessions that I've had.
Hats off to Ira. I mean, I can't imagine doing it with small kids, but that's a lot of work.
Well, this is a little chaotic, so.
My part really didn't start until Live Edge started. When we started Live Edge, I don't know, I felt different about everything. It felt real to me. I think everything started feeling real to him, after the first few months because he was in the shop. It didn't really feel real to me until Live Edge started. And now I see this as my future too. I don't think I'll be a teacher much longer.
Because I wasn't quite niched enough, but I think because my channel name is I Don't Even Work Here, I think I'm just going to roll with.
I'm going to put out some shorts for stage.
One thing I'm good at probably more than anything else is business and understanding the way businesses work and how to run a business. And I always come at from very much the money ball approach. I don't want to hit home runs. I just want to get on base and get on base and get on base.
And I think it's easier for people to look at my story, for example, or anybody like in a similar story and think that was an easy decision. And I can't state how much that was a very hard decision for both my wife and I.
I like the premise of doing a tool review, comparing two tools, and especially if they are popular tools.
You can make the life you want to, you can make the business you want to, whatever it is you want to make.
It wasn't like YouTube's good and this and that. Like I was still pretty new to YouTube and didn't know that was sustainable long term, and so it was a gamble. And I'd worked for a long time to get in the position I was at, and it was a very, very hard decision to basically give that up for, potentially the rest of my life.
I never even considered the second channel. I just think all of my content needs to go where I am.
It's a lot of risk and fear, but moving through those deliberately.
There's a system to it, and you follow that system.
So what have you learned and done to try to change? And so that's the thing I always use. It's a continuous process of evolution.
Scheduling and trying to edit and get a video out, like it's really hard to follow exactly. If you do that and do it consistently, it'll generate views.
Interesting. A lot of times you might see channels or businesses that are frustrated because they're not growing, and you look and you realize that for years or dozens of iterations, you look at the most recent and you go back a few years or a few dozen iterations and there's zero change.
I'd like to see channels evolve into more of like a channel, like we're traditional like TV channel, where you have a channel, but there's different shows within that channel, and you could have the segment for your shorts or your live streams and your longs, all these different things, and people can kind of just pick and choose what they want to watch.
And my goal isn't to get the most views on YouTube. My goal is to provide confidence, inspiration, and knowledge through entertaining and engaging content. So
what's the next step? What is the next thing? What's going to get you to that next place?
You got to get them to click. You got to get them to watch. I'm terrible at thumbnails. I hate doing them. I would stress so bad over doing them. I've actually hired somebody else to do them now. That's why they look different. I'm not doing them anymore. I took that out of my hands, and I'm stress-free on that part.
Another thing is also onboarding people that are better than me at something. So I have an editor I've been working with for about 2 years now.
One day it just kind of hit me that, okay, I watch a lot of these videos and I obviously find value in them. Why can I not be the person on the other side of the camera, right? Providing the content and the information.
With me being a business-minded individual and trying to make sure that I'm providing for my family, but also always growing.
Our audience smells authenticity, and whether or not you're enjoying what you do very easy.
I'll always be that individual that loves YouTube, that always wants to do extremely detailed videos on how to build.
I feel like the biggest challenge is probably getting yelled at to put on protective.
I'm still focused on my woodworking. I'm focused on trying to get better. I just want to try new things and break barriers and just be the best woodworker I can be, and then document that. I just don't really have the time or desire to really become a student of YouTube. So I'm always playing catch up. I'm always just doing the best I can to get the most out of what we're doing, but I am no student of YouTube, that's for sure.
A good plan of attack is to create a channel on YouTube or an account on YouTube that you don't have any ties to. You've never watched anything on there, and just start watching content you're interested in on that channel. Don't watch the news, or don't click off and start watching, the latest episode or whatever. Just use that account strictly for that, and that'll kind of start drumming up what's being surfaced to people. And then from there, you can kind of...
as far as equipment goes, and I say this adamantly all the time, there is nothing I've ever made that I couldn't make by hand. And I have a skill set that I've developed that I could make it by hand. Does having a CNC make it faster? You bet it does.
The big change that I've seen is that people have gotten even shorter attention spans than normal. So if you are going to start a YouTube channel and you're going to start recording yourself working, keep the pace really, really fast. People get bored super quick, and when they get bored, they either start tapping those arrow keys to speed through the video, or else they'll just drag the slider across the screen so that they can speed through and skip to the end and see what you've built. But if you want to engage them throughout the whole video, you've got to keep the pace really, really fast.
Basically structure your channel so that you generate more views. They watch one video, they're going to watch the next, the next, the next. If you look, and you can tell the difference I can see it in my analytics. I can see it in the way my channel's structured.
The first thing that I would recommend to anybody, and this of course applies to any niche that you're looking to start a channel for, is before you even take the first steps in terms of researching and all that, which we'll talk about in a second, I would have a really honest conversation with yourself about what you're looking to get out of the channel and what your expectations are.
As a rule of thumb, post-production takes 6 times recorded footage length. not shoot time, but recorded footage length. So if you record a 5-minute clip, it's going to take you a minimum of 30 minutes to edit that 5-minute clip, even if you only edit down into 30 seconds, because you have to watch it, then you make some notes, and then you watch it again, you make some cuts, and you watch it again, and then when it fits into the timeline, by a rule, you're going to see that same clip roughly 6 times.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Appreciate you being here. Just want to remind you before we get to our guests that the chat is where it's at. I believe that you get more out of a live stream if you are chatting it up with each other and asking questions and giving comments to our guest and myself. If you do have a milestone to share, please put an M at the beginning of your chat comment, and we will try to celebrate with you. Whether that milestone be a YouTube milestone, a Instagram milestone, a milestone in your personal life, somebody was born, somebody got out on parole, whatever it is, we want to celebrate with you. And if you do have a question, please put a Q at the beginning of your chat comment, and we will try to get to those and get those answered. I imagine you might have some questions for Matt tonight. And speaking of which, let's bring on our guest. Our guest has 46 videos on his channel, over 173,000 subscribers on that YouTube channel. And that's not all. He's also got a website, and he's also got over 349,000 followers on Instagram. Help me welcome Matt from MWA Woodworks. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Your audio is a little faint to me. I'm going to ask others if they are hearing that, or if it sounds good to them. These are new headphones, so I don't want to judge it just on these.
Sound any better now?
I think it sounds a little better right there. Yep. I'm getting a comment from Alien Leader about the nice hat rack. Well, I'm on a different location tonight to let everybody know. This is not my normal studio. I'm actually at a family event where we're going to watch the football game, the national championship, after we get done with the live stream. So I am at a different location, just trying to make it work. So, Matt, how's life been treating you?
Brother, it is fast-paced as always. Just trying to live life and make content and make it all work together.
That's great. Are you full-time creator now?
Nope, I'm still part-time creator. I've got a day job. I've been almost 20 years in corporate world, but I'm hoping that season of my life is going to end here sooner rather than later, and I'll be able to take this gig full time.
That is awesome. Now, looking back, before you got into social media, Instagram, Facebook, and eventually YouTube, when did you really get into working with wood and making your own projects and building up your own shop?
Great question. So I was 34 years old when I got my first table saw. I got a job site table saw that my wife got. Well, my wife actually got it for me for my birthday. We had just moved to Tennessee from Ohio, and we bought our first house and didn't really have very much to put in it. So she was the one that started doing all the research and sending me project ideas, and all you need is this, and you need a pocket hole jig, a Craig jig, and a drill and a table saw, and you can do this. Okay, well, I was the least handy person in the world at that point in my life. I would have just as rather paid somebody to make something or paid somebody to build it for me. But I decided to give it a go, and really at that point in time just dove into YouTube, where most of the knowledge of woodworking came from for me. And really it was at that time, we're talking, over 10 years ago now. It was, the Wood Whisperer and Steve Ramsey and guys like that were out there putting just fantastic free content on YouTube. The videos were long, they were detailed. You could really learn a lot from them. I mean, some of those are just, even today, just gold videos for someone who's just starting, which is what I was doing then. And I just went straight down that rabbit hole, man. It was all she wrote. And it's one of the, I think I joke to my wife all the time. It's like the one thing that she regrets making me do. Because once I got started on it, I did not stop.
That's that is the story of so many of us. You start looking for answers, and if you're anything like me, you're a visual learner. You can learn more from a video than you can by reading 100 articles, or at least that's the way I am. And those like the Wood Whisperer, Matthias Wandel, Steve Ramsey, those that have been at this so long, I mean, they are the legends on YouTube, because the whole woodworking community would not be what it is today if they had not made those initial videos on YouTube.
Oh, it's absolutely the foundation. I mean, I was not in a place in my life at that time where I would have done something like, go to a woodworking school, or even, spend a week or 10 days in a woodworking class. That just was not where I was at that time. But to have something so accessible and so readily available, so I get done with my day job, come home, spend some family time, and then I could just binge on videos and search and find all the little niche things that you can get into that you just don't know about when you get started. But yeah, I met Mark Spagnolo. This is probably been 6-7 years ago now. And I told him when I met him, I was like you taught me what a bandsaw was, what a joiner was, like all of that stuff. I had no knowledge at that time. And so it really, really is. Those are foundational creators and video makers in this niche for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully you can hear me. My video went out, so I'm troubleshooting on the go here.
No problem. I still got you.
Cool. As you got started, and I love what you said about, you need a screwdriver, you need a drill, you need a Craig jig. Well, that's a concept that there's so many new creators coming on and looking to woodworking channels today. So those videos stand true, but so many videos out there right now are introducing the newer products, the new jigs by Craig, the Masca jigs, and so forth. How do you think that the woodworking process has evolved for beginners over the years?
For sure, it's a lot more accessible with companies like Craig and Rockler and Woodcraft, making it so that you can get into it without having to make a significant investment, and that's a relative term. But in the scope of the things that you could be doing with your time and money, it's a relatively low barrier to entry to get started because of that. And I certainly did it. I used, construction lumber. I still have out in my family room. I've got an Anna White X-Brace farmhouse coffee table that I made out of really, really crappy 2x6s and pocket screws. And my kids still beat it up today, and it's awesome. I actually think it looks better today than when I built it. But you can get into it for call it less than $1,000 if you there's loads of videos out there on YouTube on just that subject. Which for setting up a shop in your garage or your basement or whatever, that's a fairly low barrier to entry to get started. And you can make some pretty decent stuff as you start to learn the craft. And I think for a lot of folks, they may not ever want to get to the level where you're buying large power equipment and you're really producing fine furniture or cabinetry. They may be in it because they want to work with their hands and build a little table or something like that, or some decor for their home to just give them that sense of satisfaction of having accomplished that goal. Some people don't make it past that, and that's what's great. You can buy the tools that will get you there, and you can then make a further investment and move on down the road as you say, hey, I'd really like to learn how to do this, or I'd like to learn how to elevate my skill set, and that's going to require more of an investment and more tools. But that's okay. I'm all in now. But you can test the waters before you do that, and I think that's a great thing.
Awesome.
I got you back on video now.
Yeah. Can you can you see me?
I can.
All right, cool. All right. So you got into woodworking, you were doing those projects. And when did you cross the barrier and go into social media?
So probably four years into it. I spent just time, building my skill set, doing all the beginner projects, learning, how to make, cutting boards for your family members and all those little things, and slowly building up my tool collection. And then I think it was Instagram, in probably 2014, I guess, is where I really started dipping my toes into the water. At that time, I really had no desire or even honestly ability to do YouTube. It just was, I was still trying to learn one skill set, and video editing was just not, I was not going to have time to do that. And I would say Instagram, because back then it was all pictures. So all you had to do was stage up, 3, 4, 5 pretty pictures or process pictures or whatever. And you had your post for the week, and you could go about your business and continue to learn and continue to build and not have to worry about video production and editing and all that other fun stuff. That's like a whole second job. And so that's really where I made hay in the early days, was constantly posting to Instagram, building my following there. I did a lot of cutting boards back then. And so I was able to actually, go farther than just sharing what I was doing, but I could actually build a customer base. And then took that on to about 4 years. I think I sold cutting boards all over the country and several places outside of the U.S. And then beyond that, I just said, I'm tired of making cutting boards. I need to do something else, build some other things. And oh, by the way, I should probably start doing the YouTube thing as well.
Well, you were, I looked back and found another video where you did an interview, I think 4 years ago, and your Instagram account was huge, even at that point. And and you had put a lot of effort into Instagram, and you were very engaging with those who would leave you comments, and you would go and comment on other people's posts as well. How do you think Instagram has changed over the years? Is it easier to raise a following and get a lot of followers, or is it more difficult, or is it just different?
Well, it's certainly different, just simply because of the rise of video on the platform. So that probably happened in 2017, 2018, if I'm remembering correctly. And so I did have a large, upswing in following in the first few years simply by posting pictures. And then the nature of Instagram changed over to video. And it's like all these other platforms, you kind of need to be engaged with what the platform wants you to be engaged with. And that's the secret really to continuing to have growth on the platform. And so for me at that time, it was, I'll start to be, I could sit on the couch in 30, 45 minutes and throw together some video on my phone. And then I'll have a little 1 minute clip that I could post to Instagram. I don't even know if it was 1 minute back then. But that was the seed for me actually of saying, well, hey, maybe I can do video. Maybe I can work in time for the editing process and make something of this. And I think today, if you're gonna look to get started on the platform, or really if you've been on the platform and you're trying to accelerate, it's for sure video. But for me personally, I've been fairly stagnant in terms of growth. I do think there's for our niche or for the woodworking niche, there's a point of saturation where growth is, a struggle. I don't know. I tend to go up a couple thousand, down a couple thousand, and I don't sweat it much anymore because for me, during those years of being on that platform and engaging in different messaging groups and going to conferences, Workbench Con and some other ones that are no longer around, I met some really, really amazing people, other, content creators or even people who aren't really on the content game and are just woodworkers, and just made some of the most fantastic friends. And that really, for me today, is where that platform is at. It's spending time with just the people that I've met over the years, and continuing to be engaged in their life. And I think TikTok is another platform that if you're really wanting to go for growth, that's really where it's been the last couple of years. And I've seen some creators that, you go and look at their Instagram account and they've got, 5,000-10,000 followers. And then you go over to TikTok and they got 500,000 followers. So that's really the high growth area right now. I think it's fairly mature on Instagram these days. But you can still, there's still plenty of people pumping out content over there, plenty that you can learn, plenty of people that you can reach out to and meet and really engage in that way. And that's what I think Instagram's value is right now is, hey, come and be part of this community because it's a really, really, it's a good community. And there's so many people who are willing to share what they know, share how they work, and not just, on the woodworking side of things, but also on the content creation side. So I would definitely not encourage, people from really getting engaged in producing content on that platform. There's still value in being there, and I would still encourage you to do so.
Yeah. You mentioned like different formats. We have TikTok now, and of course we've mentioned Instagram. What's your engagement on Facebook nowadays?
I went from 0 to 60 miles an hour on Facebook. So I've had, I like everybody else have had Facebook account for, seems like 15 years now, maybe even longer. And I had a page set up there for my woodworking when I was a seller. But I really, at that point in time, it was like, well, if you don't make an investment in the platform, in other words, if you don't pay Facebook to put your content in front of people, you're not going to go anywhere. And so a long time ago, I had just given up entirely on Facebook and focused on other social media platforms. And just this year, I shouldn't say just this year, just last year, 2022, at the beginning of the year, I really had a hard look at, hey, there are a lot of people who are able to grow and able to do things. It's different. It's definitely not organic like it used to be, but you can get there now because they monetize their platform. And so I can make money on the content that I put there. And for me, looking at content creation as a business, what I decided was the right thing to do there is just, hey, I'll monetize on the platform. I will take whatever amount of money that I'm making off that, and I'll plow it right back into ad dollars on that platform to get Facebook to show my content to other people who might be interested, who otherwise would never see it. And I've gone from, I think I had 2,500 followers or whatever you call them on Facebook at the beginning of 2022. And I crested 50,000 just here right before the holidays. So, but it's not organic. I don't know if that's possible anymore. But for me, I was like, well, if I'm going to go all in on this platform, I'm going to go all in, because trying to do it the organic way and spend years and years working your following up, I don't have any interest in doing that. I'm already in so many different places. But just being able to take what I earned from that platform and reinvest it back into that platform has seemed to work really well for me in getting my account to grow and getting some exposure there and continuing to grow that part of my content business.
Great. What with YouTube kind of following the TikTok trend and adding shorts, and they're even changing the way they monetize shorts this year. Have you where do you think that balance is between long form content and shorts, where you don't isolate your viewers to one or the other, but you can have good engagement for people who like both types?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I'll just be upfront and honest. I haven't put a whole lot of thought into shorts on that platform. I mean, I do have an absolute ton of content, meaning, vertical form video content that I've developed over the years for Instagram, for TikTok, for Facebook. And I probably put some shorts out there when they introduced it as a thing on YouTube, but I just really at that time had no interest because it wasn't monetized. Not that that's monetization isn't the end all be all, but for me, I got to really look at where I invest my time and what I'm getting for that in return. Because as I mentioned, I'm trying to not have two jobs. I'm trying to have one job and do that one job really well. And so I've got to invest my time wisely in where I go. But now that they've got that monetized, it's an interesting question, because the feedback that I've received from other YouTube creators who have posted, post shorts as well as long form content on their same channel, it's a mixed bag of results in terms of, you kind of mentioned it. It's just like any of these other platforms. They're different audiences. Obviously, they're consuming that content in a different way. And so I think you almost have to silo them in the sense that converting them from one style of content to another is relatively low return. And so if you're going to go all in on the shorts thing, you've got to go all in on it and capture, even though it might increase your overall follower or subscriber count on the platform. It's a whole separate group of individuals. They may even be in different countries and not used to the type of content that you create. Or interested in long-term or long-form content at all. So I think if you are going to go into that, I think just having the mindset that it's a separate audience, a separate group of people kind of under the same tent, it's all the YouTube platform. But I would be interested in seeing them do something a little different where maybe they separate the two so that because when it comes to shorts, I mean, I could go out and post, 50 shorts in 50 days. I've got the content in the bank to do that. But you're not, I wouldn't go doing that on my regular channel platform, because you're just going to overwhelm people. And then the problem with that is when you do hit them with a long form video, are they gonna even be around to watch it, because they're like, well, I've already seen content from him 5 times this week, or 10 times in the last 2 weeks. They may not, you may end up hurting your people who are willing to click and even start watching the video, no matter how good your content is or your thumbnail is. It's an interesting issue for sure. Obviously on Instagram, your regular feed and your reels, and I don't even know if IGTV is still a thing anymore, but they're all separate. Stories are separate. So you consume them and view them separately. You don't necessarily have to worry about, is the same person seeing this and seeing your other content on the same platform. So yeah, it's a very interesting question. And I know I just blathered on a bunch about stuff that I really haven't put a lot of time into yet, but that's kind of my feeling on it is, if it's monetized, it's worth checking out. But yeah, there's definitely going to have to be some type of keeping those two audiences in your own mind as a creator as separate entities.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of conversation about people saying, well, you can boost subscribers by putting out more shorts on content, and your subscriber count's going to go up. But I've also seen the polls where there are so many, especially in our niche, it's polarized. Either they like shorts and they enjoy that kind of content, or they hate them and they don't want to spend any time on them. So if you are converting a bunch of folks from, putting out shorts videos, and you think that you're going to convert that to your long form content, I think that's a struggle with a lot of viewers. So
yeah,
if you brought them over with shorts, I think you need to keep delivering that short content.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true, because another danger of it, again, because it's all on the same platform, right? If you go onto Instagram or you go onto TikTok, you are already groomed to consume a piece of content at a certain speed for a certain duration of time. And, I'm not going to go on. If I were to go on to TikTok or whatever, and someone somehow posts a 15-minute video, I'm probably not going to sit there and watch the whole thing, because I'm on my phone and it's this big. And if I'm wanting to consume that much information, I'm going to sit. I'm old. I'm an old man now, so I'm going to sit down in front of my laptop or my PC, and I'm going to watch it like I'm watching television, and I'm going to consume it that way and learn from it that way. And so one of the terms that gets thrown around is, it's cheap views or cheap followers when it comes to pulling people in via shorts and then trying to sustain your long form content. Because what the distinct danger is there is someone who's pulled over to your channel watching that short form content, if they click on to a long form video, and they may not even really necessarily know that it's a long form video until they're like, oh man, I just clicked on this and it's 15 minutes. How much of that video are they going to watch, right? What's their, if I'm geared to that short form content, how much time am I really going to spend watching this video if that's not really what I'm after? And YouTube it's about, viewer retention and getting them to watch as many minutes as they can, as much as the view count and the subscriber count. It's really about how much of that can they watch and how many ads can YouTube serve them. And so I really worry about doing damage to, that those first few hours and those first few days of a YouTube video is it's what makes it go this way or straight down into the dirt. And so if you're pulling in a lot of those shorts people and they're not willing to invest the amount of time to really continue to give you that watch duration, it could do damage to your main product. And that's, so beyond, you might be exchanging a high follower count for terrible watch time. And that's really the opposite of YouTube's business model today. So maybe that changes with monetization, and maybe people don't care so much about that anymore. But that would be a distinct danger that you'd have to watch out for. There is just making sure you protect your watch time and making sure that you can somehow successfully convert short form content viewers into someone who's willing to invest the amount of time that it takes to get, at least halfway through your video of a long form video.
Yeah. Being a YouTube creator, there's always this balance too of providing content that is for your audience and content that you enjoy making. And, so I think that comes into it as well, is if you like putting out the shorts videos, but I think you still need to consider your viewers, which you've been trying to cater to. So if they've been catered to with 10-minute long videos your entire time, and you start introducing some short form content, I don't think it's a big deal. They can just ignore those and so forth. But if you make a switch to all short form, don't have a false expectation that they should come along with you in that ride, right?
Yeah, and that's true, but you're going to be able to produce that short form content a lot faster and post it more often. And so you also have to think about the total number of pieces of content that you have on your channel, because then it becomes an issue of, well, I went to Matt's page looking for this video on how to build a cabinet, and he just published that video. I know, because I watched it for the first time 3 weeks ago. Now there's 15 other pieces of content ahead of it in line, and I can't find what I'm looking for. Right. So there's a real challenge in that if people who are coming to your feed are trying to search for things that way, and not necessarily I won't call them, it's not lazy, but where the algorithm is feeding them your content and they just stumble across you, versus someone who is already invested in your channel and knows to go to your page to hunt for a video that they've watched in the past, or they just watched one of your videos and now they want to go watch 4 more long form videos. How hard are you making it for them to find them? Because again, I could fill up my feed real fast with content that already exists, and I could bury my long form stuff way down in my feed if I'm not real careful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as time goes by, YouTube will continue to segregate the short and long to help the channels, I hope, and to help people find.
Yeah, at least a toggle or something like that, or a separate channel that's attached to the main channel for a different type of viewing experience. And then I'd be happy to say, hey, if you like this content and you want to see more day-to-day stuff or shorter form videos, check this out. And then that way it's kept separate. And then you can also keep those audiences separate as well, because I do think that at least when it comes to my experience in, hopping from one platform to another platform, you don't drag a whole lot of your followers along with you when you do that. It's pretty much a ground up endeavor. You may start with a small seed of a few thousand, that follow you, but in the grand scheme of things, you're basically starting over. And so I think that that's a healthy way to look at it, even on the, inside of the YouTube platform. I think you have to look at starting with shorts as being its own platform, its own thing, and its own separate curated audience.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a second. Go back in time. Your Instagram in 2016 or 2017, I forget, already had over 100,000 followers, right?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, and I was listening to one of your interviews. I'm trying to remember the sequence. So I went and looked at your community post, and I found some information. So around 3 years ago, you had 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and about 2 years ago, you had bumped that up to 50,000, and around a year ago, it was up over 100,000, and now it's over 173. So with your example that you were just given, you had over 100,000 followers on Instagram whenever you really got going on YouTube with this channel, and those didn't just convert over. You've had to earn every subscriber on YouTube. So I don't want people to get the impression that it was a gimme. You built up one platform and all those converted over to the other.
Oh yeah, trust me. There was a point in time when I fooled myself into thinking I'll just go over on Instagram and announce, hey, I've got a YouTube channel now. I just posted my first video. And then I'll instantly get, 10,000 subs just off of the people that follow me on Instagram. And it's just not true. I think I don't remember what my follower count was well, I guess it's probably on Instagram. It might have been real close to that 250 or 300,000 mark when I launched my YouTube channel, and I probably got 700 people to subscribe to my to my YouTube channel from Instagram when I launched it. So it's measly, it's terrible. The conversion. People like to be on the platform that they're on, and they like to consume your content on that platform. And when you go and move over, it's a whole new build it. Like I said, build it from the ground up. It doesn't matter what your cred is on one platform or another platform. Like I said, it's real funny when and it works both ways. Don't get me wrong. Like you could go and find, and it may be different now, but 3-4 years ago, you could find YouTubers with, 1 million plus followers, and, they got maybe 40, 50,000 people on Instagram. And it's same thing with TikTok and Instagram. All of them, it's just different. It's people don't like to go follow you, or they just don't move over quite so as readily as you would like them to.
It's the woodworking community is awesome. Anywhere you go online and you find a group of woodworkers, there's usually a cooperation where they will support each other, giving advice. I know there's some negative people out there. We can't worry about those. Overall, the community is fantastic. And that's whether you go to Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. But you're right. In a lot of cases, it's a different group. You have people that like a certain platform. They like the way things are working there, and they're vested in it. And as a content creator, we have to make a decision. Are we going to go try to build our brand on every platform, or are we going to select certain platforms? Now, what advice would you give somebody just starting out about whether or not they should go after all the platforms or focus on one or two?
Well, if you're just starting out, I would say, how much time do you have? If you are able to swing the video editing game and do long form content, I definitely would say go after YouTube. I wish I would have done it way back in the beginning. I'd be a lot farther than I am now. But then again, at that time, I didn't have the knowledge or the time to be able to invest that much of my day in, the process for our niche is different, right? So when you look at someone who's just a talking head, right? So their content is themselves speaking, giving advice, doing whatever it is, like we're doing right now. sitting in front of a camera and talking, you can produce and edit, fairly quickly and get content out there. But in the woodworking niche, you've got a job, which is to build something. And then you have another job, which is to shoot all of that footage, edit all of that footage, and then promote all of that footage on whatever platform that you're on. And so I would say if you have the ability to invest the time in YouTube and invest some time in long form content, everything else beyond that now is going to be cake for you. You can then take that and go immediately to Instagram, immediately to TikTok, immediately to Facebook, because in today 2023 time, everything is video. So I would today go straight after video. Me, all those years ago, it was the complete opposite. Start on a platform where I can just post pictures and then dip my toe in the water with small short form video, and then take the leap into YouTube. But absolutely everything is video today. So you might as well dive right into it and learn as much as you can, as fast as you can, because the other platforms they're gonna be a lot easier for you if you can master the YouTube game.
Yeah, the skill set for YouTube, like you said, beyond the woodworking, right? The storytelling, the editing, the videoing, to think about, for me, one of the struggles is I set up the camera from one angle, and the first thing I do is put my hands in front of what the camera needs to be taking video of. You have to be conscious of all these things and how the end product's going to come together. And I think, like you said, if you can figure that out at least to a decent level with YouTube, then you could apply that to all of the media, right? Whether it be Facebook, Instagram, all of which do better whenever you post videos than still shots. And videoing, editing to a vertical format. If you have the video, you can do that with a lot of.
If you have the video, you can do it, and you don't have to worry about on the other platforms voiceover or anything like that. So again, if you have all the work done up front, exporting it out and reformatting it and making something that works with music or with no talking at all on those other platforms is cake. And I wouldn't worry about your editing skills too much, because I think as much as content has evolved and people have gotten so used to, editing tricks and filters and all these other things that help someone make really good content quickly, that didn't exist prior. But I also think that there's still, don't make the mistake that I made. And this, I think, is the one regret that I have that probably would have pushed me into YouTube faster, is trying to make everything perfect right up front, and trying to say, well, I don't know how to do these transitions. I don't know how to get great audio quality. I don't know how to, my shop doesn't have very good lighting yet. I'm filming all of this on my iPhone or whatever. I think that there's enough still today. There's enough appreciation from the audience, just the general YouTube viewing audience, that makes that kind of content very relatable. And I think if you can master telling a good story, if you can master walking someone through the important parts of a process in a digestible way, they will see around, they'll know that you're a new YouTuber, and they'll know that you're not a polished 1 million subscriber channel with, tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment and years of experience editing and doing all that. There's a relatable quality to that is gonna draw people to your work, that I think I just didn't realize that, or I didn't give that enough weight when I started. And believe me, my content was not perfect when I started on YouTube, but I thought it was. and I'm just realizing, man, I wasted so much time. I just should have dove in there because I spent a whole lot of time making not very good content when I could have spent a lot less time making not very good content and allowed myself to grow as I went. So,
yeah, cinematic quality editing doesn't compensate for boring storytelling or lack of good context subject. So, if people are there to learn how to use pocket hole jigs, and you spend all your time telling jokes and have perfectly edited, some Steven Spielberg would put out, but there's no story, and the quality of the value of the content you're sharing is not there, they won't care. But
yeah,
they'll overlook, your J cuts on your editing, if they're getting something else out of it, or they can relate to you. Being genuine on camera is something that so many of us are trying to do, and enjoy the process with the viewer, right?
Yep. No, I absolutely agree. I think the biggest things that I've learned, and the biggest things honestly that I think have changed on YouTube content creation in the last 5 years or so is don't do dry content, don't do informational content. If you're going to publish if you're going to cut a dovetail in a piece of wood, and you've got 15 or 20 minutes of footage that's just your hands and the saw and the camera doesn't move, and you don't really talk very much, and it's very dry, that there's literally millions of hours of content like that already on YouTube. That corner of the market was taken a long time ago. There is you got to put a lot more value on being yourself, telling the story, drawing the audience in, not just for, hey, I'm going to pick up some nuggets of information here, but it's going to be relatable. It's going to be a little bit fast paced. That's another thing that's different, and it's tricky. So fast paced is not a 60-second video. You can have a 15-minute video and it's still fast paced. It's all about how you cut up what you're trying to say and edit it together in a way where it jumps from one thing to another, to another, to another in these bite-sized bits. But then all of that is strung together in a complete piece of content that just keeps moving. And that is an art in and of itself, to learn how to do that successfully. But I think gone are the days of just, you plop your camera down right in front of your bench and you build something and go over and do a dry informational voiceover over the top of it. I don't think that's going to succeed on any platform anymore. I think that you've got to focus less on I got to make sure I tell them every last thing that I know about this thing, and just stick to the high points, but make those high points like really super valuable, really, really interesting things that people can walk away and say, well, yeah, I definitely didn't know that. And that one piece of information, maybe that makes the whole thing worth it for them. But just move from one to another, to another, to another. And before you know it, you're going to have a decent long video, but you're going to keep the pace fast, and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be relatable. And that's the winning formula, I think, for content these days.
For anybody thinking about starting a channel, or anybody like me who has a channel and wants to improve, Matt's been laying out some golden nuggets here. I hope you're paying attention, or you may need to rewind about 90 seconds and listen to what he just said, because that was valuable information. This is the point where I do one of our silly little things on the channel. Tonight's live stream is brought to you by the letter M for MWA Woodworks. If you're having a good time, please give us that thumbs up, give us that like. But Matt, talking about the name of your channel, MWA, is that your initials?
Initials, yep.
Okay. And your logo, let me let me share that again. And if you would, tell us how you came up with your logo and and what thoughts you would have to give someone else who might be creating their own.
So my wife's youngest brother is a graphic designer. And he was just out of college at the time. And I said, "Hey, I need a logo for my woodworking. Can you draw something up for me?" And I didn't give him. I already had the name that I wanted, MWA Woodworks, but I didn't give him any other information than that. I just said, "Go and put something together, and then let me look at it." So he did that, and the funny thing is, I didn't like it. At first, I was thinking this is not on brand for woodworking. This has nothing to do with what I'm trying to project. And I didn't. I said I'll try it. We'll go with it, and we'll see how it goes. And the immediate feedback that I received on it was, that's a really sharp logo. That's really recognizable. It's really unique. Definitely don't change that at all. And so all these years later, I still tell him, it's like, your logo did it, man. That's the one that survived, and that's the one everybody loves. And I gave him almost like I said, no feedback in terms of what he should be doing with it. So it's all him. I have to give all the credit to him. And it's been a great recognizable logo for me for a long time now.
I think it's great. I think it's memorable. It visually is not just initials, but you can make out the acronym of your channel, the MWA, and it shows up well. It shows up well on Instagram and in YouTube. And whenever you're building brand logos that cause people to have association with the type of content that you put out are essential.
Yep.
And he did well. He did well. I'm impressed.
Yeah, just don't make the mistake that I was trying to make and overthink it and niche yourself down too much in whatever your branding is going to be. If you're going to be in the woodworking space, don't think that your logo, it may say woodworking, but don't make your logo necessarily visually align with that. Make your logo what you want to make it unique, make it recognizable. My logo is pretty high contrast. It's all black and white and gray. So it translates, like you said, to a lot of different platforms. It's easy to see on a phone when you're looking at a post on Instagram. And I think that's the key. To keep it simple, don't overthink it, and definitely don't try to align it with a particular type of niche. Just make a logo that works for you.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I think, people can figure out what you do by reading the name of your company. And if you look at logos that are recognizable around the world, if you look at the Pepsi logo, without the word Pepsi, you would not know that it's a soda. So, you've got to not necessarily play to the woodworking thing. Some people have really made it work, whether they put the saw blade design in their logo and so forth, and it's very recognizable. And some may have tried too hard to work in tools, and it might not show up as well in some of the medias.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we talk about logos or anything now, we have to think about how it's going to show up in different media and show up on a 5-inch to 7-inch screen.
Yeah. And there's also 10,000 of those out there now. So, when someone's scrolling and they see that logo with the saw blade in it, are they really going to know that's you or one of the other, group of people who also have a saw blade in the, a round object that's only, this big? How are they really going to know that that's you versus somebody else?
Yeah. Absolutely. What we talked about, I'm trying to get back to it. We talked about how you're at 173,000 subscribers. We're in January. We had a discussion on this channel a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about goals and targets. January seems to be the natural time for people to set goals. Have you set subscriber-based goals for the year, or how do you do your goal setting?
Well, first of all, I never set goals in January because every goal I ever set in January, I forget, or drop out of by February. So I set goals, but definitely keep them a little more fluid. But as far as goals for my channel, I don't set subscriber goals because it's just a number, and at the end of the day, if I don't hit that number, does that mean that I didn't have success on the channel? Is that even the right metric to look at? And I would say it's not. I would say your follower count is just going to be a natural outgrowth of what you're doing. And if you're producing good content, your follower count is going to go up. For me, my goals for this year on my channel are continue to get better at producing content. For the majority of my 40 whatever videos that I have out there on YouTube, it's a very common format. It's shots of a process, whether I'm building something or whatever, strung together, and then a voiceover laid on top of that, which is great. But I think that I need to do more talking in front of the camera, be more engaging with my physical self in front of the camera versus just showing, process shots. It kind of sort of goes back to that same discussion of the logo. If you just watch a video of somebody's hands cutting a dovetail, you don't know who that is. They might be providing good content, but they don't know who you are. And so that's something that I've got to improve on. And I have been. I'm doing a lot more videos where I'm talking in front of the camera and not even necessarily doing a project. Could be giving advice, could be running through a list of tools, whatever. But I think it helps you become a lot more relatable too. The more comfort you have in front of the camera, talking in front of the camera, the more friendly and the more relatable you're going to come across to the people who are watching your videos. So for me, I think that's a big goal of the channel. And then another goal, and I think the thing that really is holding me back is not necessarily the quality of the content that I'm producing, but it's more the quantity. So I think I've got to do a better job of getting more videos out this year than I did last year. If I'm able to get to the point where I can make that leap from having to divide my time between two jobs and I can just focus on one thing and do that one thing really well, I think that the follower count and all that other stuff is just going to come along as a natural part of that process. So for me, my number one goal is to get out of having two jobs, have one job, and then focus all my effort and all my energy on producing and delivering good content for the folks who are invested in my channel already and people who've never seen my content before.
Awesome. Sounds like good goals to me. There is a question from Hillbilly Chic. Are you still in Tennessee? I'm just outside of Chattanooga.
Yep, still in Tennessee. I've been here for a long, long time, but moved back here 11 years ago. And I lived just south of Nashville in Franklin, Tennessee.
I'm going to have to make it up to Tennessee, see some of you folks.
It's a good community up here. We have a really nice woodworking community in the greater Nashville area.
That's awesome. So let me ask you some of the standard questions that I get asked for our viewers. So what software are you using to edit your videos?
Premiere Pro is primarily where everything flows through these days. I used to use KindMaster on my smartphone when I was doing short form videos, and I still lean on that if I need to take a real quick set of things. Maybe I'm doing something for somebody on TikTok. I shoot the entire thing on my phone. I'll edit that entire thing right on my phone. That's a really good. That KindMaster is a really good app. Gives you a lot of good features. But yeah, primarily if I'm doing my long form content or taking my long form content and putting it into short form content, I use Premiere Pro.
And for your long form content, are you filming in 1080 or are you going to 4K?
My next video, my next video that I'm about to publish was in 1080, but the next video that I do is going to be in 4K. I've just invested in a new camera that can shoot 4K. So I'm going to make the jump up to that because I think it's going to make the editing process a little more smooth when I need to zoom in and out of my footage and not necessarily zoom in and out physically on the camera. So I'm hoping that pays a little off dividends of having to move my camera around so much. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, definitely starting real soon, my videos are all going to be in 4K.
That's pretty awesome. I think that's going to be the trend where the platform YouTube starts going more to. I think, they're going to, now that you can zoom in while you're watching a video, having that higher quality video is going to make for a better viewer experience. And therefore YouTube's going to pick up on that and push the 4K stuff even more.
Yep.
I'm sure they have metrics around all of that. They have metrics around everything.
Oh, they know everything. Yeah.
What are you using for your audio? You have a Rode mic or?
Yep. So I've got a Rode shotgun mic and a Rode lav mic. I still use the older Rode lav mic, the one that's got the wire, not the cool little chip size thing that you can attach to yourself. I'm still a little old school on that. But yeah, if I'm talking to the camera, I've got the lav, and if I'm shooting process shots, I've got the shotgun mic.
Nice. So what's the next tool that you're going to buy? Where are you going with your tools?
It's not a woodworking tool, but I literally just received a package with a 3D printer in it because that's a new thing that I want to introduce not only into my own workflow, but introduce to the people who watch my channel. I've had a smallish CNC for, several years now. And I've always had a big interest in digital fabrication, I guess you would call it, CNC, lasers, 3D printing. So I've got, as far as all the larger power tools, I've got all of that. I've had all that for a while, not really looking to upgrade anything there. So really my push is going to be more towards upgrading my CNC to a full size format, 4x8 machine, get into this 3D printing thing, and then really explore laser engraving as well. Cause I think there's a lot of value in being able to, personalize and customize if you're the type of person who is in the woodworking side of things for actual production and not for content creation. I think it's a valuable thing for people to be able to see, what does that investment look like? How can you leverage that investment to create greater profit in your business, to set yourself apart from, competitors? So that's, and for me, I just think it's really freaking cool.
Yeah. I think those that set of tools, the CNC, the laser, the 3D printer, those type of advanced tool sets have a growing audience now. I think there's a lot of curiosity. Let's face it, the market's pretty saturated with videos about how to use pocket hole jigs. So I think there's a lot of interest, and I think it spans a wider net, at least for binge watching. Maybe not for long-term subscribers or viewers of your channel, but I think people pique their interest around those type of tools. And if you rank in search or have YouTube push it out to the right audience, those type of videos I think can blow up, especially if you're doing something unique with a 3D printer, and show people how they can leverage it to increase their income or to start a business. I think you might be onto something there.
Yep, I think it's coming around. I mean, obviously the maker niche has been around for years now, but as far as where that river flows into, the river of woodworking or metalwork, or anything where you're working with raw materials and then you're blending that with other formats and other disciplines that aren't necessarily just the craft of woodworking. I think we're at that point where people are finally, if you go back even 5 years ago, the F word was festool in the woodworking community.
Yeah.
Okay, we're finally over that. You can finally produce a YouTube video and use a domino or use a Capex, and enough people are able to see through it that it just becomes a part of the content. It's you may not necessarily have that, but you can see it, you can learn about it, you can binge watch it. And I think that these other digital pieces of equipment that have always been held as, not real woodworking or whatever, I think that is starting to ebb a lot. And that's sort of that front edge of creation in this space now is going to involve a lot more of that stuff. You see a lot of, content creators in the woodworking space investing in that type of equipment, because I do think even if you aren't in a position where you can immediately make that investment, I think there's an aspirational quality of it where people can say, okay, I see where you're going. I may not be able to get there quite yet, but I definitely dig what you're doing. I see the value in it. And now that's on my list of things to try to tackle. How fast I can get to it, I don't know, but I'm going to watch your video. I'm going to learn as much as I can about it, so that when I am ready to do that, I'm all in.
Yeah, I think the woodworking niche has opened up a lot to the CNC, and I think working in laser and 3D printers are going to be a trend. I think a lot of people are beginning to be more makers and not just woodworkers. I know you have the purist, that just use their hand tools and spend hours each week sharpening their chisel sets. But for the rest of us, we try to be a little bit more open, and a woodworking tool can be anything, from your brain to your hands to a CNC machine.
Well, and I think there's a lot of people who are, I got into, festool and all those cool things, not because I thought it was going to make me a better woodworker, but because it was going, I'm someone who has many responsibilities outside of this, and I have a limited amount of time and freedom to be able to do this kind of work. And so I'm going to invest in what allows me to produce quality work as quickly as possible. And I think digital falls right into that. So it's a different kind of brain, but it's also, hey, if I can, what I mean by that is someone watching your video they may be interested in woodworking as a craft, and they may want to learn how to use, the traditional ways to do these things, but they also may be somebody that says, well, hey, I can throw that thing on a CNC and cut it out, and it's still a woodworking item. It's still a thing that didn't exist, that was just boards before. It's a different workflow, but I can also design that thing and kick it over to the machine and print it out in an evening. And I didn't spend 10 hours producing it. Right. So not that working with a CNC is necessarily that much faster, but it's one of those things where people can come to the video and look at it not necessarily as a preservation or going down the deep rabbit hole of woodworking, but hey, I want to make cabinets. I want to make this, that, or the other thing, and hey, that thing could help me do that much faster and much more accurately, and I can get to the end faster, and that's what I really place value in as a viewer. And so you've delivered that value to me through your content. So, I think it's a different audience, but I think the world is going to start to head in and be a lot more accepting of that, especially as those types of tools, because there's always been a barrier to entry in that, right? I mean, those are not cheap things, but they're a lot cheaper today than they were even 4 or 5 years ago. And you want to be on the front edge of that as a creator, because as you produce content, it may not necessarily be the most valuable thing in the world today and the most consumable thing today. But a year from now, the way technology and things go, and the way prices come down and competition, and it just becomes a lot more accessible. And now you're the guy sitting there with all the content, right? That can, hey, you just bought your first CNC. I'll show you how to use it. Here's a bunch of videos that teach you how to do it. So, a lot of value in that.
Yeah. Well, it's in YouTube. There's certain people that, have built a reputation around lasers or CNC already. And if you want to be known as one who has authority on a subject, then you want to be in art early. So I think that makes perfect sense. Now, I can't wait to see what you come up with on the 3D printer and how you're going to use it.
Yeah, I'm already, and now that my kids know that I can make them whatever, the request it's already started to pile up. So I'll get lots of practice.
Do you have sponsors right now?
Yeah, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got. I'm not contracted with anything. I'm not exclusive with anybody. But I've done work with Festool. I've done work with Home Depot. I've done work with Oneida Air Systems. I really have been investing in their equipment for many years now on the dust collection side. And Castle Pockets. I don't know if you know anything about Castle Pocket hole machines, but that's another company that I've made inroads with recently. A different type of pocket hole, but a really super fantastic machine that is really efficient and cuts really clean pocket holes. Anyways, it's not an advertisement for them, but yeah. So I've got several sponsors that I work with on a fairly regular basis.
Right. I knew you had sponsors. I should have phrased it a different way. Let me ask you this. So for those who are growing a brand, any recommendation to them as they try to negotiate with their first sponsors?
I would say a couple things about that. I would say, know your value, and don't be afraid to ask for what you want. You may not get it, but working with sponsors is a learning process. And it's not just a learning process for you, the creator. It's also a learning process for the brand, because a lot of these folks, especially in the woodworking niche, are still way behind in terms of how they think about this stuff, how much they invest in it. But I would just say upfront, know what you're worth. Reach out to other people who are in the space, who are who are working with sponsors, and ask them what they charge for an Instagram post, or what they charge for, a 60-second ad spot in a YouTube video, and start to get an idea. Okay, they've got this kind of follower count, and they were able to ask this much. So, I've got this, and so I'm going to go out and ask for this, and just start from there and work your way up. But don't be afraid to ask for what you want, because a lot of times they're not going to know, the brand is not going to know really, well, what should we be paying this person? And there may be a little bit of an education process for you and them. And then the other thing I would say is, get in there and try it, because what you want to show on your channel is a demonstration that you do that, right? That you work with sponsors. Throw an ad in a video that you think is going to be a fairly, whatever that means for your channel, a fairly successful video, to demonstrate to other agencies and other brands that, oh yeah, this person works with sponsors, and their video did fairly well for them. So even if you took less money to do that first ad or first couple of ads, go ahead and get your feet wet just for the experience. And then you would be surprised, but people will start coming to you. They will find you out once your subscriber count gets to a certain level, and your view count gets to a certain level. People will just start asking you, and that is the position that you really want to be in. You don't want to necessarily reach out and hound, if you want to work with this certain brand, you don't want to be the one sending them an email every week saying, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, do you want to do this? Hey, I'm really interested in you being a brand sponsor of the channel. Because that's going to put you in a bad negotiating position. You want to be able to have them come to you and say, hey, we noticed you did this ad spot in a video and it seemed to work out really well. We'd like to try doing one of those with you. And now you've gotten the interest from them first, which is in any negotiation, that's the place that you want to be in, because it allows you to do a little bit better job setting terms for what you end up able to monetize off of that. And that's really the beginning of it. Just put yourself out there, do some of them, make a little bit less money, but demonstrate that your willingness and ability to do it. And then as you grow, it'll all just start coming together for you, and you'll start getting them having interest in you.
Yeah. Did you find that WorkbenchCon was a good place to approach vendors and talk about sponsorships?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to do it. But again, a lot of times that's you approaching the vendor. What I would say, I would not approach it that way. What I would do at an event like that is I would just take the time to put yourself in front of those vendors, learn the names of the individuals who are managing their marketing and social media, and say, hey, I'm Matt. I run a channel called MWA Woodworks, and I really just wanted to meet you. I wanted to learn a little bit more about your company. I wanted to learn a little bit more about you. Start to build that relationship, and don't worry about trying to walk out of there with a deal or even a discussion about a deal. I would just make yourself present in the moment. Really value them as individuals, because that's really what it's about, a relationship at that point. When it's not email. This is not you reaching out via email. This is you literally standing in front of another human being. So keep that in mind, that's really what you're doing, is you're making a relationship. But that's really the value in events like WorkbenchCon is just making those types of inroads to say, I might like to work with that group in the future. So I'm just going to let them know I exist and get to know Matt, the person. And then they might be willing to say, okay, well, now I'll go check out his channel. Now, when we are ready to do something, I've already had multiple conversations with him. So you might be the person that comes to mind first when they start looking to do work like that.
Awesome. You going to WorkbenchCon this year?
I am. Yep. I've been to all of them. Well,
Awesome.
yeah, all of them that have been had.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's an amazing time. If you've never been, and you can swing it, the couple of days to come down and meet some really genuinely nice folks and have a good time, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. I was there last year. I'm going to try to be there this year.
Was
Biscuit Tree.
last year your first time?
Yeah, it was my first time.
Yeah. Good for you.
Biscuit Tree Woodworks says, how big was your channel when you started working with sponsors?
I'm gonna say probably 40 to 50,000 ish. When people really started to take notice and reach out to me. I don't know that I had any deals in place ahead of that. Like, I guess I probably did, but this is where things get a little bit. I don't know that you can necessarily take this advice to the bank. I mean, again, I was on Instagram and I was doing sponsor work on Instagram long before I had a YouTube channel. So I had some of those inroads naturally built in already when I started YouTube. So I probably had some sponsorship work lined up ahead just due to that. But I would say where it really starts to get to the point where you will get people talking to you, it's probably around that 40 to 50,000 subscriber mark. And that's really where I would start to expect it. And that's not to say that you can get something sooner than that. Again, if you're out there and you know who to talk to and you can meet them and get yourself in front of them, you could certainly do something sooner than that. But if you're passive about it, that's probably when I would expect people to start approaching you.
Yeah. You know, different types of sponsorships, but there are some companies that would send you a tool to do a video about before you even get monetized on YouTube sometimes. So never hurts to ask whenever you're a smaller channel. All they can say is no, and you never know what it might turn into.
Listen, if that is a form of monetization that you're interested in, and that's a super valid thing, especially at the beginning, absolutely. I don't even remember. I probably had like maybe between 1,000 and 5,000 followers on Instagram. And I think I got like some saw blades from Freud and like a micro jig push block, right? And I was super jazzed about that because I didn't know what the heck. I was just getting started and wasn't even at the point of thinking about, bringing in any kind of money on what I was doing. I was just super happy to have some tools and build that out. Definitely free tools. There are loads of brands that will trade you. And you don't have to have 50,000 followers for that at all. They'll reach out. A lot of these companies are very good at what I would call going shallow and wide, meaning they'll work with loads and loads of content creators who have smaller accounts, but are very engaged on their channels and show the ability to be able to. You're making a pitch for the brand. That's really what you're doing. And if you can show that, they're definitely interested. For free product, you can do that all day long.
Yeah. Couple of more questions. I know we've kept you long. If you don't mind, Matt.
No, absolutely. Go right ahead. My pleasure.
Dancing Alone with Reynolds says, when you watch videos, what have you begun to move away from? What type of videos have you seen too many of?
I'm going to assume this is I'm consuming content and then digesting that and figuring out how to apply that to my own work. And so answering the question that way, I would say, as I mentioned earlier, what I would call strictly educational content, meaning my primary goal is to show you step by step how to build this thing, whatever that thing is, and stick to just getting as much information in that video as possible. I would say there's plenty of that out there. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to know how to build cabinets 6 ways to Sunday, there are videos out there that can show you how to do that. But that doesn't mean that there isn't room to do more cabinet videos. What I think that, as we've talked about, and when you see some of the really successful YouTubers in this niche, it's a lot more about personality. It's a lot more about engagement with the audience. It's a lot more about storytelling. And you have to learn how to build that into your content so that you want to be able to give enough information that you're still providing that level of teaching value to someone who isn't going to, they can come to your video and not know how to build a cabinet, and you've given them enough information that they can then get started doing that. It may not be a comprehensive video on that, but you did a great job of telling a story and presenting the content in a fast-paced way that they can then take back and digest, watch your video 4 or 5 times. If it's fast enough, they'll do that. Trust me, they'll do that because they're invested more in you and what you have going on than necessarily just dryly, hey, I wanted to learn how to build a cabinet. You showed me how to build a cabinet. It's very transactional. I would move away from that and more towards investing in yourself in that relationship between you and your audience, and learn how to give them just enough information to make them, want to go out and try it from themselves. Because there's a lot of, ability to give someone the right pieces of information and they can figure out the rest on their own, right? You don't leave out the key pieces of information. You give them that and you'll let them figure out the details in between. Don't worry about that, putting that in a video anymore, because there's just, in this niche, there's so much of that out there already that you're really not adding any additional value. Unless what you're doing has never been done before or is so unique and so niche down, which there are very, very few channels that are able to do that, because in this niche, everything's been done. So it's really got to be focused more on personality, engagement with the audience, telling a story. And oh, by the way, I'm going to show you how to build a cabinet as quickly as I can and as in an engaging way as I can. That's really what I'm moving more towards, trying to move towards, and away from that dry, informational, pack it all in, textbook on a screen type video. Because again, that's already been done. It's out there.
Hugh McMath, one of our former guests, says, speaking of quality work is as quickly and safely as possible, what's your opinion on the SawStop compact saw?
I have no opinion on the SawStop compact saw. But I will say this about SawStop. So as I mentioned earlier, I started out on a Bosch job site table saw for probably 4-ish years, maybe we'll call it. And I just happened to be fortunate enough to live in the same neighborhood as a seasoned, longtime furniture restoration guy. And I met him and got to know him. And he showed me a scar on his hand, which he said cost him $80,000 to repair. And he said, I was cutting a 1/8-inch sheet of material on my table saw and managed to cut all the important things inside of the palm of my hand. And then I got a SawStop. And he said, do not buy a single other tool for your shop until you can afford to buy a SawStop. Do it as an investment in yourself. Now, at that time, all SawStop had was the cabinet saw. So that's what I did. And so, speaking to the quality of SawStop and the technology in their saws, and there already are, but they're going to be even more safety conscious manufacturers offering different technologies in that space. But again, my experiences with SawStop, fantastic piece of equipment. And when weighing hey, is this the absolute pinnacle in this area of saws, table saws? It is right up there in terms of the work that you can produce on it. But by far and away, the safety to yourself and the ability to keep your hands, at least on one tool, you can keep your hands safe. I would 100% recommend it. If you can make the investment in a saw stop, get a saw stop.
Absolutely. It seems to be the technology to keep your digits, so if, and it, at least their cabinet saws, everything about them seems well made. I don't know. There's some videos out there. Go watch 731 on his opinion on the compact saw of theirs, if you're getting that specific. But it's fantastic technology, and I don't see the price of that coming down tremendously in the next short time. So,
yep. Yes, they do cabinet saws well, and they do that technology well. So I would assume if they're cabinet saws, if I can vouch for them, then the more compact saws are probably up to par.
Yeah, definitely. Jim River gave us some thanks, which thank you, Jim River. Jim River Woodworks released first video with more than 100,000 views. That is awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
We
Big milestone.
With you. Yeah, that's huge for an early video. And we've got a lot of other comments. Matt, thank you so much for coming on. Now you have it's on your website, right, where you sell some plans?
Yep. So I've got project plans that are available at MWAwoodworks.com. I have plans for most of the things that I've built that I show in my YouTube videos now. So those are all available up there. I also sell, my projects come in bundles. So, if you see a plan that you like, and then maybe it's a shop jig, or maybe it's a piece of cabinetry, I try to be conscious about, people who are willing to invest more and buy more. I'll give you a bigger discount on that. So be sure to check that out, because I think I have a pretty good value proposition there in the way of selling project plans. I don't just sell individual plans. But yeah, it's a fantastic tool if you are interested in learning how to build something and you've not done it before. A set of plans is a great way to start.
That's awesome. Check out Matt's website. Check him out on Instagram, YouTube. Where else should they look for you, Matt?
I'm on all the things. So Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, all at MWA Woodworks. So I've got it all nailed down, and at MWAwoodworks.com is my website.
Matt, thank you. Tell your family I'm sorry I kept you so long, but I appreciate you. As for me, I'm going to go watch the rest of the football game, and I hear my wife calling. I got to go.
It's absolutely a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
And I think it's easier for people to look at my story, for example, or anybody like in a similar story, and think that that was an easy decision. And I can't state how much that was a very hard decision for both my wife and I.
I still do some from time to time now.
Okay. And what led you from that into video creation on YouTube?
Boredom.
What's the next step? What is the next thing? What's going to get you to that next place?
It wasn't like YouTube's good and this and that. Like I was still pretty new to YouTube and didn't know that was sustainable long term, and so it was a gamble. And I'd worked for a long time to get in the position I was at, and it was a very, very hard decision to basically give that up for potentially the rest of my life.
With me being a business-minded individual and trying to make sure that I'm providing for my family, but also always growing.
It's really kind of sad because I didn't get involved even when he was doing the noodle boards. He pretty much did all that. I did everything in the house so that he could stay in the shop a lot.
I am a little conflicted, I think. It initially started off with just sharing like my sewing machines and sewing tips and stuff like that. And then it kind of morphed into sharing the Mastering Mayhem merch items that I was making. And then along the way, I kind of shared some DeWalt tool and obsessions that I've had.
Hats off to Ira. I mean, I can't imagine doing it with small kids. That's a lot of work.
Well, this is a little chaotic, so.
My part really didn't start until Live Edge started. When we started Live Edge, I don't know, I felt different about everything. It felt real to me. I think everything started feeling real to him, you know, after the first few months because he was in the shop. It didn't really feel real to me until Live Edge started. And now I see this as my future too. I don't think I'll be a teacher much longer.
Because I wasn't quite niched enough. But I think because my channel name is I Don't Even Work Here, I think I'm just going to roll with it.
I'm going to put out some shorts for staging. Staging is simply where you make the piece of furniture or the item, whatever it is, if it's, you know, wall decor, whatever it is that you're making. It's just where you simply make it look like it belongs in a home.
I never even considered the second channel. I just think that all of my content needs to go where I am.
I'll always be that individual that loves YouTube, that always wants to do extremely detailed videos on how to build.
I was living in Charleston. This was back in, we're talking 2013, March 19th, 2013 was when I posted my very first video.
So think about what the kid actually wants. Try to come up with projects that are quick wins. Sometimes it's not even really hammering something or sawing something. Sometimes it's just simply gluing a couple things together and then painting it. Like, think like a kid.
I had talked to a lot of people in the area trying to find a woodworkers group, people that were building stuff. Didn't even have to be woodworking, there just wasn't much of it. So a friend of mine suggested making videos on YouTube to reach out to other, meet other woodworkers, reach out to other people who were building things. And so I started checking it out, and that was really cool. I saw, back then it was Steve Ramsey, Mark Spagnolo, Laney Shaughnessy, and of course Matt's Basement Workshop. And they were kind of, those are really the four guys. I call them the four fathers. They're the four guys that really started the woodworking DIY thing on YouTube. Those were the guys that started it all. And then there was Matthias Wandel and John Heintz came along. And about the same time, Jimmy DeResta had started his thing, Bob Claggett, and I started about the same time, roughly within a year span there. We all started right around the same time, and it was just fun and exciting. I put a video up. It was the worst video that's ever been posted to YouTube. If you're hard on your videos, go check out my very first video ever. You won't feel so bad, I promise. But people commented, and I was interacting with them, and I took like another 2 months and I put up another video, and it happened again. People were, commenting and talking, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And between at those points, I was watching a lot of YouTube. It was ridiculous. I had done a lot of fishing because I had a lot of free time. So I've been fishing and watching YouTube videos. And I kind of saw that there was this gap in the market of things that, just these in the industrial side of making or furniture or other things, you tend to see a lot of things that you don't see in the DIY side. And there's a lot of adaptations that I saw that were possible. So I took a lot of my knowledge from that side of the world and kind of adapted it to the DIY and just started doing a lot of crazy and wild things that people hadn't seen before on equipment that wasn't designed for it, but it worked.
I've had them different times throughout the course of 14 years for different projects and different things that I'm working on. Right now, the team members behind the scenes all have to do with my online courses, but everything else, as far as what I do for my channel, it's all me.
Doing the research is not necessarily going to be the fun part, right? And we had Mr. King on here a couple of weeks ago. He was talking about the research he did before he released a single YouTube short. Well, the research he did led him to putting together a video less than a minute, but there was many, many hours of research before that, but it led to 5 million views. So research can be very important. this is counterintuitive to a lot of the suggestion out there on YouTube where everybody says, just hit record. Just go out in the garage and hit record. And your viewpoint seems to be different than that. What do you say to those people that say, just hit record?
I'm glad you brought it up, RT. There's a lot of, I call them talking points that have manifested themselves for whatever reason in the how to grow space. The just hit record is probably one of the ones that drives me the most insane. I mean, you can go out and just hit record, but again, set your expectations for what you think the output and the end result is going to be. You get out of things what you put into them. And you may get lucky and you might catch a unicorn, but I'm going to bet 9 times out of 10, if you just go out and you hit record, you don't do any research, you don't have a plan, you don't have a rough script, you don't have a target audience, you don't have value that you're looking to provide. Again, I just think you're setting yourself up for unneeded frustration when a little prep and work up front can pay extreme dividends in the end. And you don't get a do-over when you post the video. Once it goes out into the interwebs, it's done. And you can't go back and redo the same topic right away because then you look like a goof.
I'm inspired by this guy. It's a little not fair because he does have a bigger, larger channel, but he has a smaller woodworking channel that's done pretty well this past year as well as in 2020. And his name is Robert Dunn.
Authenticity is something that I strive for all the time. I always try to just be myself, but everybody always says that. They always say, well, when you're on camera, just be yourself. But as soon as the camera goes on, you're never really yourself because you're always aware of the image that you're projecting, and then you're going to refine that further when you're editing it. At best, I think most of us are only, at best, maybe 80 to 90% ourselves. There's always that part that's carefully curated.
And he's hilarious. I think he is one of the best people in front of the camera in our space. His bigger channel is a car channel. I'm not going to kind of focus on that. But under Dunn, he has made a handful of videos this past year. Not nearly as many as he made in 2020, but he still racked in quite a few views. Especially, he had some videos over 100,000, some over 500,000. And what I really want to emphasize with Robert Dunn, even if you watch his Aging Wheels channel or Underdone, his woodworking channel, is his confidence, relaxation, and charisma. And it might come naturally to him, but I believe that everyone can work on charisma, and they can look at someone like Robert Dunn and get inspired.
And as far as working to become more natural on camera, that's just time. You just keep doing it. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get at it. And I do think it's important to, as much as I'm not really a fan of saying having the avatar behind the camera, I do think it helps to imagine that you're actually talking to somebody who will be watching the video. Sometimes it's easy to forget that you see numbers of people watching, but you forget that these are actual people watching your video on their phone or on their TV or wherever. And I think it's important to keep that in mind.